Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising trilogy, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again. Each book is a compilation of features about cruisers and cruise and travel personalities from around the world. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests.
Hello, passionate cruisers. We've got a real treat this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast. I am delighted to welcome contemporary jazz artist Vincent Ingala to the show. One of the fastest emerging contemporary jazz recording artists in recent history. Multi-instrumentalist, composer, and producer, Vincent Ingala has blasted into an exciting stratosphere of his own making since his 2010 critically acclaimed debut album, North End Soul. Still in his early 20s, the charismatic saxophonist has been named Billboard Smooth Jazz Artist of the Year in 2012, Sirius XM Watercolors Breakthrough Artist of the Year in 2013, and his music is consistently found atop the most noteworthy music charts in the world, including 9 number one hits on the Billboard Smooth Jazz chart and 21 singles in the Billboard Smooth Jazz Top 10. An old soul, as he's often referred to, Vincent possesses a deep knowledge and appreciation for all genres of music. His versatility on multiple instruments makes him sought after both live and as a producer in the studio. This coast-to-coast sensation brings a playful spirit and youthful enthusiasm to contemporary jazz, with a real sense for what music fans are seeking, from recordings to live performance. In The Joy of Cruising, I wrote extensively about theme cruising in a section called Theme Cruising, Two Passions in One, and another section called Performing on the Ocean. I am delighted to welcome Vincent Ingala to the show to talk about theme cruising from the performer's perspective. Vincent, welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you, my friend. Good to be with you, Paul. Happy to be here.
So how you doing?
I'm great. We just saw each other a couple weeks ago. We were on the high seas, of course, but like you said, we're back in civilian land now and got our sea legs back, hopefully. I know I did. You know, it took a little bit of time after we got off the boat. I was still feeling like I was rocking a little bit, but that's to be expected.
So you had to do 2 cruises, right, in a row?
Yeah, we were doing the Smooth Jazz Cruise, 2 weeks at sea, 2 back-to-back weeks in a row. And what a time. It was a great 2 weeks, flew by. Each week was very, unique and different than the other. It wasn't exactly the same. The audience is a little different. There's always a little more spontaneous musical ideas. They're, slightly different from the previous week, but it was fantastic. Still coming off a great time.
Yeah, it was wonderful, and I'll talk a little bit about it shortly. So I shared your very impressive bio with the listeners. So fill us in on some details that were not in your bio. Where you're from? I know that you started young. Tell us that story. Who are your influences? Anything you want to share?
Well, I was born in a small town called Prospect, Connecticut. Born and raised. I still live there to this day. I love my small little town. Population 10,000 people, roughly, It neighbors Waterbury, Connecticut, which is it was the brass capital of the world, and New Haven, New Haven County. So that's where I'm from. I just grew up in music my whole life, surrounded by it constantly. Never sports, never anything else. Just my family is music people, period. My father was an old school DJ. He had vinyl, literally. He was a mobile disc jockey. So I just spent every ounce of time I could flipping through the crates and just listening to every piece of record he had. And it was 50s, 60s, Elvis, Beatles, rock and roll. And then he had, quite an extensive soul collection. My father had an affinity for horn groups, in particular Mandrill, Brass Construction, BT Express, groups like that, man. It was like he went deep, my father, so I all those influences got stored up here. And then the whole jazz movement, the whole Crusaders gave me a Crusaders record, and he was starting to listen to Grover and Ronnie Laws, and then it transitioned into what we now know as contemporary smooth jazz, and it's kind of an extension of that whole music back then. So, when I was playing the sax in fifth grade, that's when I started, 10 years old. I picked it up in the school band. I was listening to a lot of smooth jazz on the radio, and I'd start to emulate what I would hear my parents play every Sunday morning. There was like a smooth jazz brunch, and I'd hear artists like, Boney James and Richard Elliott, and those were like the contemporary people for me. I was young listening to them, so but I also had a prior affinity for all the old school guys too, Wilton Felder and Sam Butera and Grover and Gato Barberi, and so I just loved saxophone, so I kind of gravitated towards that the most. I was playing drums and guitar and keys all through my grade school and growing up. But by the time fifth grade came, I kind of started to really focus in on the sax because it seemed like a challenge for me. It seemed like something that was a little more harder to get a good sound out of. The drums were a little easier, guitar, but sax, I wanted to sound like these guys on the radio. And so I knew I had to put a little time in. And so I think that's what kept me going this whole time. And I eventually stuck with it enough to the point where I kind of fell into my own sound, and that kind of became my main voice, so to speak, the saxophone. And it's continued to this day. I still play all the other instruments, but the sax has kind of become what I identify the closest to, and I think what people identify my music the most with is saxophone.
I'll bet when you were in fifth grade and you picked up that sax and you're already into smooth jazz, you probably were the only one in your class who was into smooth jazz.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, not even the adults really knew about it. I mean, it's as you know, it's a very close circle of fans and musicians and people that like the music. It's not mainstream. I think the word jazz gets associated with bebop and straight ahead to the mainstream a lot of the times. But in the case of smooth jazz, it's like a cult following. There's the people that know it, and the people that are in the world, they understand the artists that are in it and the influences that they had to listen to come up the ranks to listen to smooth jazz and to get it to that point, the appreciation for everything that preceded it. But it was like, I was really the only one listening to that music and that could identify with all the modern day artists at the time that were being played on smooth jazz radio.
So as Vincent mentioned, I met him on the Smooth Jazz Cruise last month on the Celebrity Millennium. I went to your high energy headline performance, Vincent, and throughout the cruise, day and late night, I saw you in collaborations with a number of legendary performers and Grammy winners. Besides exhausting, what was performing on the Smooth Jazz Cruise like?
Well, just performing on a cruise in general is just quite an experience because you're surrounded by endless musicians that are one more talented than the other. A lot of them, in my case, legends that I grew up listening to and that I have gone to collaborate with over the years. So now they're my friends. We're close friends. And so it's not only a constant camaraderie and one big jam session, it's also a big hang. It's a friendship, and it's a chance for us to kind of break bread, so to speak, through music and get together. It's like, I call it like Disneyland for musicians. It's like there's no better place to be than hanging with your peers and making music and networking and exchanging. So between all the various different venues on the ship, there was quite a few of them. There was, of course, like the main stage, the theater, and then we had the grand dining room every night would be converted into a jazz club at night. They would strip the tables and the chairs and set up like festival style seating with candles on the tables. And it was like an awesome, huge, mega, 600-700 seat club venue. And then of course you had the lounges, the smaller lounges, which is big ones, small ones, upstairs, downstairs, martini. But there's so many places to hear music, and you really can't stack them in a form of a hierarchy. They're all very unique. They're all very cool. I mean, you could be having just as much fun watching somebody in the lounge that you could be in the theater. It's just, as a matter of fact, a lot of people like the intimate venues even more because you're right on top of the artists and you feel like you're in the living room watching your favorite artist perform, and it's this intimacy that you really can't get anywhere else. Because think about it, if you're a mega fan of this genre and you pay to come on here and you see your favorite artists, you're not only
Mm-hmm.
going to see them in concert, you're having dinner with them, you're swimming in the pool with them, it's all one big family that meshes, and there's no hierarchy. There's no, it's just beautiful. We're all equal on the ship, and it's just a really unique experience that you can't really describe unless you're on it, you know?
Yeah, you mentioned it was like it's like Disneyland for performers. For a staunch smooth jazz fan like myself, it was like Disneyland for me. After, I would
Right.
say after the second or third day on the cruise, I mean, I felt like I had already gotten what I get out of a normal 7 day cruise. And I couldn't believe that we had so much more ahead of us.
Well, that's the thing. You get a lot on the smooth jazz cruise, and a lot of people say that it's hard for regular cruise patrons to go back to a regular cruise after experiencing this, because it's just you get so much, not only nonstop music and entertainment, but they take care of everybody in other ways that can't uh, you can't even measure up to. So it's just endless for 7 days and 7 nights. It's really an amazing experience, top to bottom, start to finish.
Hmm. The Smooth Jazz Cruise is put on by Jazz Cruises, who I feature in the upcoming The Joy of Cruising Again. You've been on earlier Smooth Jazz cruises or jazz cruises, right?
Yes, my first one was in January of 2020 with them. And then, of course, we were going to sail in the following year, and then the pandemic hit. So it was great to return for a second year and finally get, 2 weeks under our belt, because we were supposed to do another week in March of 2020. They were separated by 1 month,
Mm-hmm.
but this time it was simultaneous. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just, by that point, we were such a well-oiled machine. The train just kept rolling. So it was great.
Mm-hmm. Have you done other theme cruises?
I have. I've actually been doing theme cruises, jazz themed cruises, since 2011. I started with Dave Kaz and Friends at Sea. I've done every cruise with Dave except for 2012. So 11, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 21 and 22. Yes, I've done all those Kyle's cruises, and now two with the Smooth Jazz cruise. And I forgot also in 2016 I did the Capital Jazz Super Cruise. But this all falls under the belt of
Mm-hmm.
the jazz R&B category. So yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, I'm definitely no stranger to how cruising works, and I've gotten very comfortable with it. I think I consider myself good at it. And I mean, what I mean by that is I have the temperament for it. I love being social as it is, and I'm very good with, being with people and being social. Just my personality naturally is like that. I love performing. I love the business. So it's a perfect environment for me. You get dressed
Mm-hmm.
up every night, go out to dinner, you do shows, you're constantly around shows, you're networking with musicians. I love it. It's real, and you're self-contained on the
Mm-hmm.
ship for a week, so it's not like you got to keep flying every day like when we tour normally throughout the year and we repack, and you're set up you set up shop for 1 or 2 weeks. Everything's right there, so it's great. It's just you're rolling by the
Mm-hmm.
couple days in, you're rolling.
Now, what was it like for you as a performer during the pandemic shutdown when you couldn't cruise or perform on land
Well,
even?
it was terrible for everybody. I mean, as you know, and not just musicians, it's just all professions, and everything just stopped. We stopped touring just like that. Just everything just shut down overnight. And
Mm-hmm.
as musicians and performers, we part of what feeds our soul is we got to play. We got to be out there. We got to be interacting with
Mm-hmm.
the audience and networking and all that. So it was quite a culture shock to all of us, just to be going, 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 going.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden it just stripped away just overnight. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we all learned a huge lesson. We didn't really appreciate what we had. Not that we didn't appreciate it, but when life is going so fast, you don't realize what you had until it's gone. And so I think going back into it now,
Mm-hmm.
um, everything is full steam ahead. Thank God, knock on wood, like normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all went into it with a brand new appreciation now that we
Mm-hmm.
are back in business, so to speak. So we'll never take for
Mm-hmm.
granted little things that we did again, like having to get up early to catch a plane and going to bed late and waking up early. Those are all, that comes with the territory, but you can't complain about that. It's just a blessing to be making music and in the business. And we're just so thrilled to be back, as
Mm-hmm.
evidenced by I think the joy that everybody was experiencing on the last cruise. It was the first sailing
Mm-hmm.
since the shutdown. So it was everybody was amped up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, double what they would have been normally, because everyone was so happy to be back and reunited. It was quite a euphoric sensation.
Mm-hmm. Now, was that your first cruise since the shutdown? Do you cruise casually?
No, the thing is, I've done so many cruises over the years, working on cruises. I probably wouldn't venture to take a regular cruise now, just because we always do at least one or two a year. So um,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
in a way, that's like my vacation. I mean, we are working, and we are, we're definitely there to perform and do our thing, but it's like a vacation in itself, because you still get a lot of downtime. You still get to enjoy yourself. You still get to go out during the day when you get off the ship and go to the ports and see the sights. So, you really can't ask for more than that.
Oh, so you were able to do the touristy thing. I kind of assumed you guys were rehearsing all the time.
Well, very occasionally, if you have to be back maybe a little earlier to do a sound check or just get some levels right. But, a lot of our rehearsing is done a couple weeks in advance, usually in Los Angeles, California.
Uh
And
huh.
so by the time we get on the ship and the cruise starts, we're already, rehearsed and ready to go. So we come on fully prepared. So that's nice, because it gives us an opportunity to, like I just said, get off the boat and kind of experience the regular cruise like the patrons would, which is great.
Hmm. Before you started performing on theme cruises, had you ever cruised? When was your first cruise?
No, I had never taken a cruise before playing on getting hired to play on a cruise. So that would have been 2011, my first cruise. I sailed to Alaska,
Hmm.
and I was 18 years old. I had just about graduated high school. I was just on the verge of graduating high school. I did the first inaugural Dave Cos and Friends at Sea cruise to Alaska, and it was quite a thrill, and I
Hmm.
never thought I'd be on a cruise ship. My family didn't take cruises prior. We would just go to the beach or something for the week, but um, there's still an excitement when you get on the boat that reminds me of the first time we ever did the cruise. I remember being so enamored by the fact that, in the dining room you could just keep ordering food and whatever you want, and you don't take out your wallet at the end of it. You just keep. It's just amazing, little things like that. And I just remember, God, I wish more people know about this, because it's just like a wonderland. You go to the casino after, go to the show, go play tennis, go to the beach, go to the pool, get some sun. I mean, depending on the itinerary, but you literally cannot get bored with the amount of activities to do on the ship. It's just amazing, and you're getting to see world class entertainment at the same time. People, music and artists that people love and grew up and idolize and have listened to. So it's really there's not too many there's not too many things out there like that, I'd have to say. It's a very, very unique market
Hmm.
for music.
Were you anxious at all on that first cruise in terms of like seasickness or anything like that?
I remember a little seasickness. Yeah, the first year. I think we had a choppy day, and I remember feeling a little iffy, but we just took a little Dramamine or something, and it went away. But no, I don't think nervousness describes it. I think it was just so exciting at the time. I think there was so much to take in. I think I just wanted to absorb as much as I can of it.
Hmm.
So it was really quite an eye-opening experience. And then I remember doing
Hmm.
one the following year, and it was equally as exciting, because I already by that point I already knew what to expect, but look forward to some new things, a different ship, different itineraries, new cruise lines. So it's just, it's endless. It really is.
Hmm. Just a quick aside, my first theme cruise, it was kind of R&B themed, and one of the headliners was seasick, and he was escorted to a chair, and he did his entire set sitting down. And then when he was done, he was escorted off. It was kind of touching, he did a great job. But yeah, I don't know if it was his first time ever on a ship, but he shall remain nameless. He's an R&B star, but
Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah.
was interesting.
Well, everybody reacts differently to the sea, and there's been stories over the years, artists, tripping on stage and at a rough sea day, and I remember an incredible female keyboardist. She was wearing 6-inch heels on the stage and was tripping and couldn't keep her balance, and it was just so funny, because we're still trying to navigate being, you get that humble reminder every now and then that you're still on the ocean and the water, and so things could happen, even though the boat is so big. You gotta be mindful of that. And usually the theater is right at the front of the boat, where if you're going to feel any choppiness, the most of it is going to be felt there. So that's another important aspect of that.
Say something about your latest projects, album, tours, etc.
My latest CD is Fire and Desire. That's the name of it. It came out in September of 2021, and it's my 7th studio album and my 3rd album on the Shawnee label, which is a jazz and R&B record label. And another busy year coming up of touring and supporting the CD. And because we lost a year of touring, with COVID, so we're still trying to make up for it and get to places that we didn't get to play and share some of the music that we didn't get to play live. So another crazy year on the road. I'm touring with Peter White this summer as a package show together. I have dates of my own, of course, and then later in the holiday season, I'll be doing the Peter White Christmas tour with Mindy Abair, the 3 of us. That'll be my 4th year in a row doing the Christmas tour, and it's always a great time to spread some holiday cheer and play some Christmas music during the year, and that's always a lot of fun, and I always look forward to that. So the focus is just to keep touring and playing. That's what I love the most. I mean, I love the studio. I love recording and producing and writing, which I'll always continue to do, and I'm sure another album will be coming out at some point. But in the meantime, there's nothing like being on stage and performing and just pounding the pavement. I love it. I love being on the road.
I'm quite familiar with both of those artists. I love Peter White, and I got an opportunity to take a photo with him on the cruise, and that photo is in my new book that's going to come out in a few weeks. And then
That's awesome.
Mindy Abair, I'm very familiar with because I live in North Carolina now, but before moving here, I lived in Florida, and there was something called a Punta Gorda Jazz Festival, and Mindy, I think maybe she's from around there, but I know she would come. I went every year, and she came 2 or 3 years that I was there. So
she'd have a festival down there every year in Punta Gorda, and we actually played on those grounds last year on the Christmas tour, which was a lot of fun. So it was great.
okay, yeah. I had moved by last Christmas, but yep. So do you have any like fan sites, or how can our listeners follow you, stay abreast of what's happening with Vincent Ingala?
I'd say there's 3 main spots. Number one, my main website, vincentingala.com. That's everything you need to know there. Tour dates, latest news, music, links to get music, listen to music, CDs. And then there's the social media thing. I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram. I always write back to people on there, and I encourage everybody to drop by and share a note. And I'm very active posting on there where I'm going to be playing and shows and some fun stuff and some clips of music and things I'm working on in the studio. So it's very it's a very easy world today to get in touch with somebody and stay connected. So I think it's great.
Good. Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the future. So I understand you have a river cruise coming up later this year with smooth jazz greats Rick Braun, Dave Koz, and Richard Elliott. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, Rick Braun a couple years back started a Rick Braun's signature event series, and he has his New Year's Eve event every year. But then he started getting into hosting his own river cruise, and I did the first inaugural river cruise with him and Peter White. That was in summer of 2018, and we sailed down the Danube River in Germany, and it was great. And then since that, Rick has done 2 other cruises with various artists, and I'm going to resume my second cruise with him this July. Again, we're going down the Danube River, I believe, or the Rhine River. I'm not sure. These years roll into one another, but we're in Germany, and yeah, and what a cast this year. I mean, Dave Koz, Richard Elliott. So that's Saxophone City right there. So we're gonna have quite a horn section. I'll say that. We're gonna do some fun things and team up and do our own shows, play together, and like I said, talk about we're in the cruise vein. It's similar but different. The river cruise is much more intimate. It's about 150 people. It's not like the massive cruise ships, but still the same concept. Very intimate shows every night, and just a little different setup. But Rick did a great job of executing this, and he's a consummate host, and he's put on a great couple of cruises these past few years, and this upcoming one will be no exception. And we're really looking forward to it. And we're going for 2 weeks this time. Last time first year I did it, it was 1 week, and the event grew in popularity to the point where you could do 2 weeks, and that's what we're going to do this time. And it's just great for the genre because it just shows us that there's still a huge following and calling for this music, and people are willing to travel at great lengths to go hear this music and spend time with the artists. So it's all good for our music and our genre, and helping keep it alive. Really is.
Well, a river cruise is on my bucket list, so I'm gonna have to have a conversation with my wife. Research.
That's right.
Speaking of bucket lists, what's on your bucket list?
I if you had asked me that question when I started it, back in 2010, I would have named a lot of things that I've already did. So I feel very blessed that I've gotten to collaborate with a lot of artists that I've wanted to, and forget about the places that I've been to. I've never dreamed that I'd see half the places that I've been to, and a lot of those, through the cruises. I have to say, a lot of exotic places that we've got to see through the cruises. Some not through the cruises. I still want to travel to Scotland. It's kind of a random thing, but I had a fascination with the Loch Ness Monster as a child, so I'd like to see Lake Loch Ness and the beautiful surroundings of Scotland. And believe it or not, my travels have not taken me to Hawaii yet, and I've never been there. And I just know that I'm going to love it from pictures I've seen and what I've heard about it. I love vintage TV shows. I love Hawaii Five-0, the original with Jack Lord. So there's a lot of history there. So I'm confident that hopefully we'll get to Hawaii at some point. Japan. I've never been to Japan. I'd like to play in Japan. To be able to say that. Again, there's a lot of time. I'm in no rush, but those are some bucket list places and experiences definitely to put on the list.
Yeah, there's some ardent jazz fans in Japan.
Indeed.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
No doubt.
Hey, before we let you go, I have a couple of fun cruise questions, and maybe one kind of oddball question. This first one is kind of a standard question, but I always get some good ideas from people. What's your favorite cruise drink or cruise dish?
There's 2 things I got to say for the drink. I remember one year I was asked to host a espresso martini hour. Now, all this was I just had to show up and talk about espresso martinis, which I knew nothing about, and I never had one before. But it was in support of a Spaghettini, which is an incredible jazz club and restaurant in Seal Beach, California. And they had some artists come, and they would host some little half-hour segments, and they'd feature a drink for each artist. So it was espresso martinis with Vincent Ingala. And the first time I took a sip of one was in front of 100 or so people that had gathered for this event, and I loved it. And I remember I was buzzed by the end of the event, because it was strong. I'm not a huge drinker. I like beer and wine, just casually, but espresso is pretty strong, but it kind of balanced out with the kick from the espresso too. So I remember that vividly. And then, I remember just loving the pina coladas at the pool because it's just a great combo of pineapple and, banana, which I love. But the funny part about this is that I would always request a virgin pina colada with no alcohol. And everybody would look at me like I had 5 heads. I didn't want the alcohol. It ruined the taste for me. I just wanted the regular pina colada mix. And so that became my drink on all the cruises,
Try, if you like that taste, try a Hawaiian Vice or Hawaii Vice, which is half pina colada, half strawberry daiquiri.
Oh, wow. Wow. I'm going to try that.
So, and especially if you try it virgin, sounds like that would fit you well.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to put that on my list next time because I like strawberry daiquiris too. So having the combo of that sounds interesting. So we'll have to try that.
Yep. Second question: what's your most memorable or most outlandish, or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
I remember actually the very first cruise that I did, I was asked to play with Peter White. I was asked by Peter to play his show. At the time, I was still, I was still part sideman, part, solo artist. And I remember that I wasn't aware of how the structure of the shows were going on the cruise. This was on the main stage in the theater. There were 2 acts a night, and Peter was going to go on second. So the first act was on, and I know that he was finishing up. And I thought that for some reason there was like a long intermission in between shows, like a changeover of 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And so I'm yapping away to somebody, just talking. And then all of a sudden the changeover happened like that. And Peter looks at me and says, we're on. Now, I didn't have my sax strapped on. I didn't have the microphone strapped on. I was not prepared. So I remember I never ran that fast in my life and got the horn, strapped it on, put the mic on, attach it to the belt. I mean, I was so fast and frantic. I made it out on that stage just for the first note that I had to play. And it probably looked seamless, but if you ever knew the franticness behind that, it was so crazy. And so then I knew at that point on, I said, never to take for granted again, talking backstage, or never underestimate how smooth and quick the cruise shows run, in the theater, because it's like a science and they got it down. And I did not know how it was working at that time. So I was totally caught off guard by that. I'll never forget how fast my heart was racing, thinking I wasn't going to make the beginning of the show because I had to play right up top of the show. So I'll never forget that as long as I live. It's crazy.
Well, given the high energy set that I saw on Celebrity Millennium last month, I'm sure you did just fine.
Well, it's going back now, it feels like a lifetime ago, but each cruise just gets better and better. We get more experience under our belt, and we have so much fun doing them. That's the whole thing. It's just, you can't, when you're having fun, it doesn't feel like work. That's the thing. You cannot call it work when you're doing something you love. That's the bottom line.
Finally, this is the oddball question. I know you have a following, and welcome to any Vincent Ingala fans who are listening. Share one thing that my listeners and your fans don't know about you.
Well, let's see. Basically, I'm 100% music for the most part, but the other aspects of me, when I'm home, I love cooking. I think it relaxes me. I think it's very similar to writing and creating a song. Like we put different instruments and elements together, we get different ingredients and put them together to make a dish, and there's no right or wrong. I think it's connected in that way. I like cooking, and when it's nice out, I live on the East Coast. I'm in New England, but when it's nice out and not winter, I like landscaping. I like being out in the yard. I like taking care of the grass and making a little landscape with some stone and shrubs. It's nice. It's something different to be outside. You're active. Gives you a chance to be creative and design something with the left side of the brain. And I think it's great. So it's a nice little break from the road and retreat. I'm just out in the wilderness and the quietness and away from all the madness. You got to have a little balance in life, you know.
Going back to the cooking, do you have a signature dish?
Growing up in an Italian family, I make a mean Sunday sauce, a red Sunday sauce with macaroni and sausage and pork ribs that fall off the bone. You cook it slow. I make a good shrimp scampi, chicken parm. It's all Italian dishes, of course, as you know.
All sounds delicious.
Yes.
Finally, Vincent, announce this week's winner of a copy of either The Joy of Cruising or Cruising Interrupted.
Yes, our winner this week, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please. Our winner is Lynette Ramnarine. Lynette Ramnarine. Congratulations.
Great. Lynette is a member of the Joy of Cruising podcast group, so I will reach out to Lynette soon.
Right. Congrats, Lynette. Yes.
Well, Vincent, best wishes to you. I would love to have you back maybe after your river cruise so we can just talk about what it's like to perform on a river cruise.
Absolutely. We'll have to do a follow-up. I'd be happy to.
Yep.
Anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. I love your music. I really enjoyed watching you in a number of different settings on the Smooth Jazz Cruise. And I am very appreciative that you came and spoke to our audience today.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm appreciative that you thought of me and asked me to be in the program, and whatever we could do to spread the word of cruising and get more listeners and followers. That's what we're here to do. And it's truly a blessing to be a part of all these experiences over the years and being on the high seas. And we're going to continue doing it as long as we can, because it's a big part of our genre and helping keep it alive. So thank you for doing your part as well, spreading the word.
All right. Take care, Vincent. We'll see you on the high seas.
You got it, Paul. Thank you, my friend. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted can be ordered at the link on the joyofcruisingpodcast.com, each for $16.99 plus shipping. Order the soon-to-be-released The Joy of Cruising Again, also at thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com for $18.99. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. Again, the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast. Enter to win a copy of The Joy of Cruising or Cruising Interrupted while supplies last at thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or both to increase your chance to win. A winner will be announced on each show. Please leave us a review and tell a friend about us. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed the brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.